Hello. It's 2020 and Hurricane Delta is about to make landfall in Beaumont, Texas. That's my beautiful wife in the background. Pop in and say hello, Julie. Hi, there's Julie. Look how sweet she is. Oh, I just love her to death. Anyway, so today I decided I wanted to have a steak and a baked potato for dinner with a little bit of salad. So we're going soup to nuts on the whole thing. In fact, I just got back from Sam's and I bought a whole beef tender. This was very cheap and it is very good, and that is very backwards. So I will work on that in future shows. But if you show this to yourself in the mirror, you'll see that I paid $12.18 for beef tenderloin, whole USDA choice Angus, which means it's a little bit better marbling than just straight choice as a general rule. But still, $12.18 a pound. This is a 6-pound piece of meat. It's pretty expensive, but you know, we're having a hurricane party, so we're gonna chow down. And this camera is not working, so I'm gonna stop. All right, we're back. I think that's a little better framing. And so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this beef tender into a couple of pieces of meat. One for my wife Julie, she likes it very well done, which for most people, you know, a little taboo, but I firmly believe that everybody should have their meat cooked the way they want it, and that it's not my job to enforce my will on somebody else, and that their freedoms are important. So I got this nifty pair of scissors. These are Wolfstoff. These are like $50 on Amazon, and they sell them at Williams-Sonoma too. But these are the most wonderful scissors, and I did get them, and they are sharp. So watch this. Look. So I'm going to cut this meat just across the top, and I want it to potentially not leak all over the butcher table right away. So I am cutting it and laying it down so that it will be conducive to working on one kind of little piece of it at a time. All right. Oh, by the way, I have already turned the oven on to 490 degrees, and I put in 2 baking potatoes. Those are delicious. And I put them in right around 2 p.m. my time. So I say after about 45 minutes, I turn off the oven and I leave them in there for another 15 minutes because the oven is still cooking them. And, you know, they need about an hour altogether before they're done usually anyway. And so now it is time to start thinking seriously about the pans that we use. This is an aluminum pan. I bought this pan at, I think, a Specs liquor store. This is a wonderful pan. It's a real restaurant quality pan. And it's made by a company out of China named Inco. And there are some letters in front of the Inco, but I don't know what they are. It's A, and then there's something up here, AFP-12. So anyway, I guess that means it might be a 12-inch skillet. Anyway, my stove, as I talk about sometimes, this is the worst stove in the world for anything. And so what it does is when I heat up the stove, I heat up a burner all the way, and I use this nice aluminum, very flexible, very light pan. What the stove does to it is it warps the bottom of the pan. And so you can't see it, but I can very clearly. That what happened was this pan warped, and it warped outwards like this. So I took a hammer and I put the pan on the table and I banged it, and then it flattened it out so that all that was left was this part here. So now it fits on the stove and it doesn't spin around. Trust me, it took me forever to figure out that way to fix this pan. And there were a lot of meals where the pan was spinning around like plates. And so instead of having plates spinning on a thing in a magic show, I'm there with 3 or 4 pans on the oven spinning around, and it's quite comical. But anyway, so that's the pan. The stove is, like I said, not the greatest stove in the world. Here's the meat. We talked about it, the potatoes. I have some lettuce. I'll probably just make a simple iceberg lettuce salad. If I have it my way, it'll have some avocados, carrots, cucumbers, and celery in it as well. And I just like Italian dressing, wishbone Italian in my mind, that you can't beat it. And so I want to introduce you to today's wine. It's called Austin Hope 2018. It's from California, but it's not from Napa. It's from a place close to San Luis Obispo, and that is just a little bit north of LA, and it's pretty far south of San Francisco. So it's really grown a lot more in the central region of California. This particular wine is the best wine I think I've drunk since my daddy gave me a glass of Merlot when I was about 23. And the things that you can really tell and what you really want to look for in a good wine is that when you they have a wine glass, it's a red wine glass like this for a reason, because you are supposed to be able to swirl this wine around, and then if you look at the top where the wine went, as long as that looks like a line, like a curtain, just going down slowly like this, that's good. That's what you want. That's what a good wine will do. And I don't know if that has to do with the fermentation or the liquor or the alcohol content, but that's what you're after. And this wine does that very well. And when you get a wine that, when you swirl it in the glass and all you see are just legs in it, they say, oh yeah, look at the legs. Well, my saying is, look for no legs, and which is directly opposite to the way that every guy loves life, which is, I like life with a little leg in it. So that is a delicious wine. Now, we're going to trim this tender. I've never done this before. I've watched a few guys do it on YouTube, and you know, I'm confident that I can do a good job of it. Of course, the main thing is to start off with a sharp knife. So I have my 14-inch steel. This thing will, I could kill somebody with this. It's that heavy and big and good. And even though I have a small knife, I still want to use a big steel, because I want to keep that knife blade as far away from my other hand as humanly possible. You know, the object is to not cut yourself in cooking at the end of the day. So here we go. I think that's pretty well sharpened up. And then I'm going to just take a little bit of this Cryopac back. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to take this tender and what's left of it, I'm going to put it in a Yumai bag. And then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and I'm going to age it. It might be another week or two before I get back to eating the rest of this piece of meat. So you'll be getting that benefit today too. And now I've cut off about as much of the paper as I want to cut off the piece of meat that I want to cook tonight for dinner. Now this is a 6-pound piece of meat, and I've cut it in about half. So I have about 3 pounds here, and it's gonna trim, so there'll be, you know, much less than 3 pounds by the time you get there. So I'm just gonna take this. Yeah, this looks about right. Cut it out of here. Yeah, that looks good. That's nice. See? Okay. And all this juice here, I don't want it going anywhere, so I'm just gonna Scott towel. This is rare. I would use a Scott towel to pick up the blood from a primal, but in this case, I just don't want this blood going anywhere. So there now, it's pretty well cleaned up. Okay, now I'm going to put this just on the counter over here. It'll be fine for an hour, 2, 3 hours. It's not gonna go bad just sitting on the counter for an hour or 2 while I finish my show. And a little bit of Scott towel too. You know what? In fact, I'll tell you what. I think I'm gonna go ahead and put it in a Umai bag and get it out of the cook space so that it just keeps things moving. Just hang on one second. These are Umai bags. These things are great. Anyway, I've got a bunch of these. You can buy them on Amazon. I would suggest not to buy any imitation because from what I read on my aging blog, the anything but a Umai is subject to being of poor quality. So you must have Umai. And Umai does make these bags in an extra huge, large size. It's big enough to put a brisket in, but you have to order it directly from Umai. Nobody on Amazon was carrying them the right size for that. However, since all I have is a small piece of tender over here to take care of, I'm just going to use one of these smaller Umai bags that I have from another purchase. And so here is a Umai bag. Boom. Easy. Now, I'm going to take this piece of tender over here, and it's much smaller than this, so I've got a lot of extra bag. But I am going to take this piece of tender and put it in here. And all I do is I just pull the beef out of the bag, you know, just like that, and I try to leave all the juice in the bottom of the bag. See? There, now it's nice and clean. Now I have the Umai bag, and I just take this piece of tender, you know, I take this piece of tender just like it is. Just like I just pulled it out of that bag. And I put it in here like this. Okay, it's in. Step one, go slowly, don't make a mess. Clean up real and incrementally, real good so that you kind of keep yourself in order. And then there's a little bit of juice on the end there, so this will wipe some of this off. Not all of it. Because all I'm going to do is tie a knot on this and put it in my refrigerator. That doesn't just bother me. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm satisfied. Much better. Yeah, now that's my plan. Get the string. I love this string. This string actually, I had to look really hard to find this string because most of the twine you find is not very thick. This is like 3 millimeter or something like that. I don't know. All the other balls of twine I got that I bought through the years, they were all real skinny, more like kite string. This stuff here is good for, remember we made a Band-Aid one time with it, and that Band-Aid held up great. So now we're going to make just a little tie off for this Umai bag. I always have to tie the ends of these off like almost like sailing knots because this stuff comes unwound really easily, and so I don't like it to be unwound like, you know, way up the middle of the string. You know, a little bit on the ends is kind of artistic. But yeah, you just take it. People talk about how contact with the Umai bag is important. I'm not so sure about that. You know, I mean, look, see here, that's good enough. Believe me, that won't hurt anything. And, you know, I twist it real good. Then I tie it off with a string. And I kind of use what's like referred to in sailing terms as a clove hitch when I make these tie-offs, because the clove hitches are pretty sturdy internal knot, and then when I make the bow tie on the top, I know it's going to hold. So with a bit of a clove hitch approach and then a little bow tie on the end, That will be good enough to keep enough germs out so that this does not turn into a piece of mold in 2 or 3 weeks. And this bag is made so that all the stuff, the air can come out of the bag, and so the meat can stay fresh, but no germs or air can go in, so the meat stays uncontaminated. Wonderful idea. Saving myself obviously a lot of money by buying a whole piece and putting them all away for later. Okie dokie, so now we're going to cut up a little meat. I'm going to get a plate to put it on. Put these up real quick. All right, so let's see what we got going here. I can see, and it's real easy to figure out how to cut a piece of meat because it almost tells you where to go. Like this piece of meat here has this slant in it. I'm not sure that's natural, but this is right here. This is a natural cut, natural separation of the meat between two little pieces of interior muscle. So this, most people don't eat that. It ends up in the garbage can, thus driving the price of this particular cut up as time goes by. This is another piece that you wouldn't eat, but honestly, it's got a lot of fat and it's got a lot of meat, and it doesn't have any gristle, so I like it, so I'm keeping it just like it is. And Julie likes her meat well done, so that's like a perfect kind of piece to overcook. Now, this piece of meat here, this is definitely what we used to call gristle. And gristle is what you cut off. Actually, it doesn't feel like gristle, it feels more like fat. So that might not be so bad. I'm going to cook it like it is and see how it works out. Okay, now this has like always been kind of the main piece of the beef tender. And there is a piece of gristle to be cut off, usually right along the top. And the reason that they cut this off, and the reason that beef, tender is, or filet mignon is always so tender and wonderful, is that, yeah, they trimmed it down to where there's nothing left but actual meat. I mean, even these pieces of flap like that and stuff, man, this stuff is all delicious. It's well marbled. It's just wonderful. Even all this stuff doesn't need to be cut away, but they do. The butchers do for beef tender, and it's a shame. So I'm probably going to cook this piece. I'm going to cut the tail off here. So I have 3 nice pieces, and then this one looks a lot like a steak. Guess what? It's going to cook a lot like a steak too. Best served, very rare, and absolutely delicious in every respect. I'm cooking inside, so salt and pepper only. No Worcestershire this trip. When I cook on the grill, the Worcestershire sauce included makes it wonderful. And so that kind of concludes how I like to trim down a full beef tender to get it ready for the pan fry. And we will be doing that process later. Thanks for joining.